Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Adriana Tender, and let's queer up entertainment. Gay TV host explains why gay pride events hurt us. Gay GB News host Alex Armstrong is under fire this week in Britain after slamming Pride Month on air, claiming it does the exact opposite of ending homophobia. The segment, titled "Do We Need Pride Month?" aired June 4th and was later posted on Armstrong's social media. During the broadcast, Armstrong argued that pride events alienate rather than unite.
Like Pride do the exact opposite to what Jonathan thinks they do. It turns people off. What I see when I see some of those Pride events is fetishes being displayed on street, men running naked around thinking that's acceptable when there are children walking around. It doesn't show anything good about the gay community. It stereotypes them, and there'll be millions of gay men, thousands of them watching tonight who'll go, actually, I don't want that representing me.
Well, they have to.
All right, talk about where that backlash has come from, because Jonathan's right, there is a backlash happening, and it is the fault of these far-left institutions like Stonewall that have pushed the agenda too far. They've advocated for puberty blockers for children, for example.
That's got nothing to do with gay rights.
And during the 2000s, gay rights was being relatively accepted. People had got over the whole fear of it all and moved on. The public had moved on and just gone, do you know what? We don't really care anymore. It's the assimilation argument all over again, isn't it? Do you want to be part of society, or do you want society to look at you and think you are different?
On Instagram, he wrote, open quote, "Millions of gay people are sick of having their sexuality weaponized, being told it's the most important thing about them. Then you get the far left activist LGBT groups pushing their degenerate ideologies down people's throats on top of it all," end quote. GB News has faced criticism before. Earlier this year, over 50,000 viewers complained after comedian Josh Howie linked queer people to pedophilia. He later defended it as a joke. As Pride Month begins, Armstrong's comments have reignited debate over who gets to represent the LGBTQ community and how. It just sounds like some Can I say shit on
Yeah. Yes, you should. It's allowed.
Seems completely and utterly ridiculous.
I mean, he sounds like a typical entitled white cisgender gay man who thinks that now that he got his, everyone else don't need to advance forward. Screw everyone else. I got my piece. And also, just for context, I know that they didn't actually say what it is. GB News is the British equivalent of Fox News. They are extremely conservative and proud of it. It is also owned by one of the Murdochs. I don't remember if it's the dad or the children. So essentially it's an analog for Fox News. Of course they'll say those things. I'm not surprised. I mean, the guy has probably hit their token.
Do we need Pride Month? Yes, absolutely, 100%, without a doubt. Did we used to have some, equality? A little bit. Has it being stripped from us? Yes. Especially, talking here in the States. And we're starting to see it around the world, too. They're following suit. But this is probably going to be very unpopular, and I will probably be canceled for this. There is some truth to saying that Pride events have gotten away from the original message that Pride was for. We do start to see a lot of people who prance around in the streets half naked and think that it's a party. And I do think that does hurt us in a little bit, because there are more of us in the community that are your doctors, your lawyers, your pharmacists, holding regular jobs, building up the community. And while we are trying to do that, unfortunately, the mainstream media, only focuses on that small part of the Pride parades. They don't focus on all of the vendors that are there. They don't focus on the nonprofits that are there. And so I think that there needs to be that communication with mainstream people, and that the news in general is not showing all of Pride.
And this makes me think about Stonewall Pride here, and how now there are certain restrictions on it. There's things that you can do and you cannot do when it comes to like your dress,
Yeah. Well, I will say a couple things. One, I mean, like, it's good that you point out that this is a Murdoch-owned company. You know, the idea of putting up the good marginalized person is something that do like on Fox News. I won't name names, Charles Payne, but like guys like that, they're designed to be that like reactionary voice. And this guy with way too much makeup on in that particular British man is that. But on the idea of like the getting away from Pride, you know, I remember chatting once a long time ago with one of the 4 people that actually introduced the first Pride March idea at the Philadelphia Homophile Conference in 1969, and like looking at what they've written and whatnot. You know, the first 1970s Christopher Street Liberation Day March, which is the first Pride with San Francisco a few days there. There were some half-naked to basically naked people running around, just so everyone understands. The Advocate or the Village Voice described it as part protest, part parade, but it's beautifully fabulous celebration. And you look at the photo back then, it was always a dash edgy to even obscene, and that's an okay thing about Pride. And if guys like this don't like that, well, you don't have to go onto the street that has the Pride parade that day, you know?
I don't disagree. And I just think, unfortunately, we are fighting an uphill battle, and we need to also be visible with those other things, the nonprofits, the community leaders, the other people that can resonate with Middle America to help them understand that the gay community is not just about people running around in underwear. And I think, unfortunately, even in Hollywood, in sitcoms, you know, a lot of the gay characters were always portrayed until we got people like Will and Grace, where we had Will, who was kind of a mainstream person that people could relate with, and they're like, oh, gay people can be. So I think there's some truth in that. I do agree we need to be out there. We need to be our authentic selves, but we also do need to realize that what we're doing with the general public and how we can kind of straddle that fence with them.
Yeah, but it's always an uphill battle, though. With whether we're talking about us or any other group that is being pushed down, it's always going to be an uphill battle. That's just part of life, unfortunately.
There'll always be opposition, but I think it's what makes us stronger. You know, these people push us to become better, more resilient. That will always be naysayers. You know, we also have to toughen up and be like, well, you're entitled to your opinion, but we're going to keep doing it.
I mean,
we still win in the end.
But we do have to be cognitive of what we're putting out to the broader public, because now it's not like how it used to be. I mean, I know I have cousins and aunties and all of that. They bring their children to Pride, you know, and it's hundreds of kids that are coming to these Prides. So we still have to be cognitive that they're there. Absolutely. You know, but I agree that it should be like, hey, they go to the beach, right? And if they can go to the beach, then why can't they come to Pride and see some of the same similar things?
Agreed. I think, unfortunately, we are a society that, you know, doesn't necessarily believe in topless beaches as a whole, and we view nudity much differently than the rest of the world. So, you know, we have some social norms that we have to dance around too. So it's a complicated problem with a complicated answer. I mean, I think he's talking out his ass.
I mean, the entire speech is code. Essentially, it is just saying that, oh, you know, the button-up white cis gays are going to be conservative, and we should just dump all the, you know, the rest of the alphabet mafia and to fend for themselves. This is specifically about trans people. If you really think about it.
Do you know what I think you're getting onto something, and I think this is another example that J.K. Rowling has just really messed up England. Like, I mean that very seriously. Like, they are so whacked out now when it comes to queer rights because of her and a few other these far-right nonsense people in England getting to get more traction.
I think they're all just looking for a reaction, you know, especially coming from GB News. So
rage baiting.
Amanda, this has nothing to do with that, but I know the organization that I work for, Trans Inclusive Group, we are going to be the only trans-led organization that's going to be in the Pride, the Pride Parade at Stonewall. So I'm looking forward to it.
Congratulations.
Absolutely. Well, that is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.